Hey folks, Ariel over here this morning. We've got a little window yet here of good weather apparently, so I'm trying to make use of it. What I'm doing today, I know the last garden one was a really long one. It might not have been of interest to everybody. This one's going to be quick. What I'm doing today is making a new bed here. This is not going to be a raised bed. Well, it's slightly mounted up right now, but it's not in a container of any kind like the rest of the garden, which is right there. It's a patch just beside it, kind of where we'd scrape some extra topsoil when we'd regraded this out to be level to put in the garden beds. And it's where that compost pile was sitting, so all the rest of the compost that I didn't use in the beds, I spread along here. And what I want to do is make a bed that I can grow corn in next year. I've not been able to grow corn since being in Wyoming, but in this area we do have some neighbors that managed to do it. So I'm going to give it a try, but it's too, don't dig that up. Come here. Good boy. It's too tall for my garden bed setup. I wouldn't be able to get my frost covers on and off over it, plus I have plenty of things I want to grow in there, so I don't want it in there, I want it here. But this is currently full of weeds and grass and stuff, and I don't want it to have to fight those next year. And so this is a really good time of year to do this kind of thing. If you, oh, look at that massive long earthworm crawling around in the damp ground. If you want to start a new garden bed next year somewhere, if you just moved, if you've never gardened, you know, whatever the case might be, this time of year is generally a really good time to do something that's going to take a few minutes, that's going to save you a lot of time, you know, in the spring and all through next summer. If I can roll this handily. Hey, baby. So this stuff is a heavy, like 6 mil plastic. It's used for construction, painting, all kinds of stuff. And this is not weed barrier like you put down in a landscaping situation. This is actually a solid sheet of plastic. And what I'm going to do here is spread this across this area where I want my new bed to be and staple it down with a bunch of these landscaping staples. These are handy. I've had a box for a while and they last forever. I reuse them. Some of my older ones are rusty. I've got some new ones I've never used yet that are shiny, but they're very handy and you can use them for years. And it's, I don't know, $8 or $9 to buy a box of 100 of them or something, unless that price has gone way up too. Anyway, so I'm going to stretch this across here. I'm going to staple down the edges so it can't blow away. That's why I wanted to do it this morning, even though it's chilly out here, because there's not really any breeze at all right now. And then that is simply going to make a totally air and sun-proof cover. And so everything under there, just like if you think about if you've ever, you know, parked an old car or something in a spot, or set something somewhere for a long time and not moved it, and you pick it up and everything has died under it. That's what I'm going to try to accomplish here. I want, by the time I want to plant in the spring, I want everything under here to be dead. Then I don't have to go through and try to pull grass roots or any of that. I'm just going to take the time to staple a tarp over it and let the worms and the soil microbes and all that do their work through the winter. And then when I pull this tarp off, and I'll roll it up and reuse it for other places, but when I pull this off in the spring, I should have bare ground here to plant into and not have the competition of the weeds. Of course, there'll always be some weeds that come back, but this is a really good way to start a brand new garden bed. If you're going to do, you know, if you're going to plant in the spring, but you can take a few minutes in the fall and say, I want my garden here, and you can make a long bed, a square bed, little beds, whatever. Get some tarps. In some areas, there's people have access to like old billboards. This stuff is not that expensive to buy. Whatever you've got, something that is light proof is mainly what you're going for, so that nothing under there gets any sunlight and it has to die. And I did go through here as well and add the same mineral amendments that I know my soil tends to need that I'd done across the whole garden. I did that yesterday. I sprinkled it in here, but it was a little breezy still, and so I didn't want to try to lay the tarp. So I'm going to tack this down, and then I'm going to ignore it till spring, and then I will have a beautiful bare spot to put a new bed and try some corn, among other things. But if you're brand new to gardening, give this a try. Pick out, if you've got a spot picked out that you're planning to put a garden, tarp it right now. And you can put any leaves, compost, anything you want under that tarp. I've got compost under here before you cover it, and then let it just sit till spring, and you're going to save yourself a ton of work in the spring and a ton of work weeding and such all summer long. So that's a cool little garden tip for you. And if you're doing a smaller area or whatever, you certainly don't have to use landscaping staples. You could throw some chunks of wood, concrete blocks, old tires, whatever you need to. The idea is to hold it in place so it doesn't blow away. And if you didn't know, cows are very curious creatures. You can see our neighbor's winter feedlot pasture comes right up to the back property corner here, and they're all very, very curious a little bit about Burley, but I think about this big tarp that just got laid out. We'll see if this is enough stakes to keep it down. We can get some pretty good wind gusts here, but I'm hoping that real soon this is going to be buried under snow, and then of course the wind won't be able to get to it at all. But if I see any of the edges starting to move, I will come back and add a few more anchors to it. And if you're a fisherman, you can also do this. Of course, you probably don't need a stretch nearly this big, but if you use worms for fishing, instead of having to go find them, dig them, buy them at your hardware store or whatever, put down a tarp over a spot like this and give it a little bit. Anytime you pick it up, there'll be earthworms right on the surface underneath there because it's dark, and so they can come right up to the surface without getting affected by the light and digest all that organic material. And that's it. That's my bed prep. It should give me a beautiful bed for next spring. So come back next spring, check in, and we'll see if we can actually grow some sweet corn, which is something I haven't had in a long, long time. Not, fresh that I've grown. Hopefully it's a helpful gardening tip if you're going to start a new garden or garden bed or for any new area for the spring. Have a great day, guys. Over here at Fineth. Thank you so much for watching these videos and spending some of your very valuable time choosing to do that. We hope you found something that was useful, educational, helpful, maybe save someone else some time and trouble, or just something just plain beautiful. If you don't want to miss any videos, subscribe and hit the bell. And thanks for coming along on our journey as we build a new little homestead with our tiny house and everything to come.